Hello guys. It's Super Neo here. You know, like I said before, I don't really like talking about these serious topics, but you know what? This one in particular, I'm surprised nobody has covered this yet. And quite frankly, it's about time someone does because it kind of applies to everyone, every single one of you who are watching this video. Well, unless you're just like a casual, but basically every single debater who watches this video at least take something from this. At least what I'm saying here has basis to it and can be backed up by basically virtually anyone. But basically what I'm about to say here is I'm just saying, in case you haven't realized, debating is just utterly toxic as it is now. Like, I can go in depth and so many other stuff about why it's toxic, but, I'ma just rather point out the things that makes it toxic and some of the certain individuals that have been ruining debating for everyone. Like, I don't mean, like, okay, I'm gonna be constructive and I'm gonna be objective when I say this, as I don't intend to start beef, but like everything I say here has like an objective fact to it. But regardless, as it is, debating is just cancer. Like, there's been so many people who've just left the debating scene for how toxic it is, and certain individuals just haven't been making it any better. But like, one thing I've just been wondering is like, how did this all happen? Like, how did we shift from just talking about characters and like wanting to index them to just like it's becoming basically dick jerking contest about who's better and shit? Like, how did we get from that? Well, today this is pretty much what I'm going to talk about. Basically, what's ruining debating. And to start off this video, I guess the best thing I can say is one thing about debating that I've noticed shift was basically how utterly aggressive and just like rude debaters have gotten nowadays. Like for example, there's this like for example, there's this one time I was in a server called Zim server. If you know Zimatorn, you probably know this server. But I was in the server and there's just been some people in there who's just harassed the server. I've mentioned them before. I mentioned several of them before. Some of them, like, I will mention later. Awesome Time, Fuzzy. Those are, like, two prime examples. But I'm mostly focusing on Fuzzy. If you don't know who he is, he's probably one of the rudest debaters I've met so far. And, like, the thing is about it is, what people don't understand is, I can't even fault the dude because you know what he lifted his style from? It all came from Seth the programmer. Now, let me put it this way. As a person, I'm looking, and like, before I even start, I'm gonna just remind you that I'm looking at this from a moral / ethical standpoint. I'm not looking at this from a debater standpoint. If you want to look at it that way, then Seth is a pretty good debater, but that's not what I'm looking at today. I'm looking at the moral standpoint of this. And as a person, Seth is just utterly fucking garbage. Now, let me elaborate on that claim. Seth is probably one of the most, like, out of all the people I'm going to mention, he embodies everything that is wrong. Like, he's probably one of the more arrogant, rude, and just utterly toxic people. Like, one of the things that he's done before was, like, make fun of a kid who has stuttering issue or something like that. Which, within itself, is a grimy and just utterly dickish move. But he's also known to just be utterly arrogant and utterly just rude. And if I could, I would, like, grab stuff from his server itself. Unfortunately, it got deleted due to his incompetence for literally letting people get mod status and just delete everything. So unfortunately, I couldn't provide some examples of that. But just know that there are people who can testify to that. So regardless, my claim has basis to it. But on that same note, Seth as a person is just utterly garbage. Like I said, he's like very arrogant, highly arrogant. He thinks highly of himself. And when I mean highly, I'm talking about the high heavens. Like, this dude just like thinks so lowly of other people and stuff. And the reason why I'm bringing him up is because what he doesn't understand is that his words and stuff has influence. What he doesn't understand is that his attitude gets transferred to his fan base, and as a result, he's garnered one of the worst fan bases that's ever been documented possible. Like, Seth people are just known, and absolutely known, for just their utter toxicity, whether it be from harassing others, literally just from like having a different opinion, or whether it just be the fact that like they just like insult people off of basic things, which is another certain individual I will mention does as well, but he's for later time. And like the thing is about that, Seth himself is just like, what he doesn't realize is just that like a lot of the stuff that he's doing it's basically affecting the whole community, because what people don't understand is that his whole rude, brash, and just utterly dickish attitude gets transferred to a large mass of people, thinking that, hey, maybe this is what I gotta do to be a good debater, not realizing that at the end of the day, yes, you're debating, you're competing, well-ish. That doesn't give you a right to be an utterly rude person. You still have to be at least professional and have some dignity in yourself, not just be completely dickish and rude, which Seth himself doesn't understand, and also doesn't understand affects the majority of debating. Because what him and Chuck don't realize, who I will talk about, what they don't realize is the anti-power scaling community, they don't like him just because he's a good debater. No, they dislike him because of everything I mentioned. He has a bad attitude, and what's worse about it is it basically badly represents us and makes all these other debaters look bad. So like the thing is about it, he can't even blame anyone but himself, along with all the other people I'm going to mention. So with that being said, it's like Seth himself is just, I don't have respect for the dude, and that's just because of his pure attitude, like I mentioned. It's like this. It's like, just, like, I could go on and stuff, but, like, as a person, I've already addressed this. Seth is just not a good person, and basically this gets transferred to the whole community and makes us look bad and stuff. Like, and there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of other stuff I can mention about Seth that also just makes us look bad as well, such as the fact that like he thinks it's okay to drag people into debates and stuff, and literally just like antagonize others just because of the sole fact that apparently it's an obligation to debate someone when it's really not. Like, see, the thing is about it. Like, there was someone who made, like, an entire video on Seth and basically just explaining on just almost everything that I was going to touch on. So, like, the thing is, I would link that, which I probably will, because it pretty much sums up, like, way better than I ever could, period. But the thing you need to take from this is, it's just, Seth is just not a good person at all, no matter which way you look at it. He's a dick, an utter dick, embodied. And it just got transferred to the fan base, and it's been spreading rapidly. And the thing is about it, it's utterly toxic. Cause like, a lot of debaters have to deal with these type of people, and it shouldn't even be something like that. Debating was never always meant, like, debating always had a competitive edge to it, but it was never meant to the extent where you had to harass and antagonize others just for stupid stuff. And also for the fact that, like, it was always meant to be fun, something that you just do as a pastime. It was never meant to be a job or anything like that, where apparently it's an obligation to insult others and stuff, which I don't stand for. And as a debater myself, this is one of the reasons why I stand away from debating. Like, in case y'all haven't realized, I've distanced myself from debating for like a while, and the thing is, it's solely because of this. These type of people are the people that, besides the like occasional anti-power scaler who like points out whatever I do, I always get those type of people who come to my server or any place I go to and just harass me and stuff like that. Like, they're the only type of people who harass me besides Splash Zone people, who I'll definitely get to, trust me. If best believe, I'm gonna definitely talk about them. But the whole point of this is basically that, like, basically the whole point of this is, as I was pointing out, is, it's just that Seth doesn't realize how much of an impact that he has and stuff. So, and as I move on to that, I might as well move on to Chuck as well. Chuck, well, he's sort of like Seth, but the thing is, he has the asshole attribute turned up to 11 times full, basically. Like, Chuck, he's arrogant, yeah, a bit, but he's mostly an asshole, and I can get several people to testify of how much of an asshole he is. He's much more than Seth himself, which is yeah, that's saying a lot actually. But basically, what I was trying to say is Chuck, he's basically almost every flaw that Seth is, except he's just more of an asshole than him, which is, again, spreading to a lot of people, and people are thinking that this blueprint or this type of style is what's good when it's really not. In fact, if anything, it just makes a bigger fool of you, because think about it this way. If I was to go to a casual debater, like a debater who actually studies in debating and stuff like that, if I want to actually debate someone with that type of style, you'd be a laughing stock almost. Nobody would take you serious. You would be an absolute fucking joke. And that's one of the issues why I object to Seth and Chuck's style of being immature and not having some profession into it. Like, this is, like, the thing is, it's just, like, Chuck is also just so immature about it. Like, he doesn't understand that, like, debating, it's always been something that, yeah, sure, it can be informal, but at the same time, you have to still have some dignity into yourself. You can't just be basically acting like a child and shit, and just being an asshole and shit. Like, you're a grown man, or at least close to it. Act like it. You have sense. And stuff. And the thing is about it, is just like, Chuck, and like, the thing is about Chuck, is just like, I kind of do feel bad for the dude, because nowadays the whole cancerous fan base, Seth's fan base, has basically turned his back on him now. Now he's the one that's getting harassed, ironically. And like, the funny thing is, I'm just sitting here looking at it and saying, I knew this was going to happen. This is what happens when you create a bad fan base. You get an unloyal fan base, a fan base that will always be assholes, and with the moment you do something, well, that's your cause. Meanwhile, when you have a good fan base, you'll have people who are supportive of you and stuff like that. Seth and Chuck, they don't have that. And the thing is about it, as shown with Chuck, it's bite him in the ass. In addition to the fact that, like, he's lost a lot of debates, so in their eyes, he's just a shit. He's like a shitty, which, in my opinion, no. Just because someone's a bad debater doesn't give you a right to insult them. Even if you perceive them as stupid, that doesn't give you a right to insult them. Fiction itself is based off a subjective premise. Yeah, sure, you can index feats and stuff, and yeah, sure, your interpretation could be wrong, but at the end of the day, it's still an interpretation. It's not an objective fact. Unless the writer themselves is like, unless like the creator themselves is objectively saying that this is all true, then you have no right to say that this person is stupid, because it's still an interpretation. It's not an objective fact. Like, and that's one of the things that debaters just don't understand about debating. Debating itself, well, at least fictional debating, at least, because actual debating, like debating actual topics, it does have facts to it. It does have a ground to it, and it's not based on the interpretation, but actual fact. But fictional debating is much different. For one thing, you're debating characters that are just pure fiction. They don't exist. So you can't draw an objective thing from it. Unless, like, the creator's interpretation is just saying that that's true. Then in which case, it's not an interpretation anymore. It's just an objective fact. That's where a lot of debaters just don't understand and don't draw the line between. And this is again a current problem with Chuck and Seth. They don't understand this, and then they think it's alright to do this shit outside of their own community. In which case, it's gotten the attention of a lot of people who think they are either, like, stupid or they're just shitty people, which they are, but still. Like, to all the people who've made videos on Seth and, like, mentioned his attitude, I stand by them. Even as a debater myself, who I'm supposed to stand for my own community, I can't even fault them, because at the end of the day, everything they say is right. They're basically, outside of their own community, they're just, like, laughing stocks, basically. And that's not what a debater should be. A debater should be someone who you can at least look up to and be somewhat dignified. At least, like, view as dignified. Like, that's just, it's all, like, it's, what people don't understand is, it's just, everything about debating is all backwards. And with that being said, another thing I would also like to point out is, like, there's a lot of famous debaters who I just don't like, and again, it's not because of their skill, because a lot of the good debaters are known well for their skill, but a lot of debaters are also known for their just sheer dickish attitude. Another prime example of a debater who, they're not really like, they're not as big as Seth or Chuck per se, but they're still relatively known. I would also love to point out, Splash. Now, I've actually had run-ins with Splash, and I've had encounters with him before. At first, I did think he was like a genuine exception to this rule, like an outlier. But then I looked more into him, and then I saw his recent actions and stuff. And then I'm like, yeah, what have I done? This dude isn't really any different. Before I talk about Splash himself, let me just mention his server. Oh god, his server. Oh my lord. You know, when you have a server with people in a fan base that's like arguably worse than Sev's, you know you really done fucked up. But like, let me just get on this to like Splash's server, and this I can actually back up myself because I've actually been in Splash's server and can substantiate all of this. But, and also in addition, I can pull people who are currently in Splash's server and can back this up. But, with that being said, Splash's server is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, debating communities I've ever had to experience, and his server is just god awful. Like for example, one notable person or people I should say who like actively went out of their way to antagonize me and shit was a person named what was it? Oh yeah, well besides Awesome Time, who I've mentioned beforehand and I just despise. But besides him, there was a person named, what the fuck was his name? Because I know who it was. Oh yeah, there was a person I encountered named Kratos. He's like one of the first experiences I've ever had with Splash's own crowd and stuff. But Kratos himself, at first view, I thought this dude was pretty cool. But then I looked more into his attitude, and this dude is just an utter douchebag. He thinks it's justifiable in a debate just to scream and basically scream your point, ignoring the fact that your inflection doesn't do shit. It's the points that you make. And a lot of people can, and like the thing is, what he doesn't understand is like, just because you're in a debate, that doesn't mean you can go fucking ape shit and act like a primal idiot. I don't respect Kratos because of the fact that he thinks it's alright to just be an utter asshole and shit. And the thing is, when I tried to debate him, I tried to be as formal as I could be, and many people can testify to that. I tried to be as formal as I could be, even despite the fact that he was screaming at me. But then I just decided to just say fuck it, because you know, at the end of the day, it's all on him. He did this shit. I didn't have to get rude. We could have been constructive about this and been professional. But no, he thought it was a good idea to scream at me. And what's funny about it is that this dude has like actively, he can't get my name out of his fucking mouth, basically. And the funny thing about it is, he's basically one of Splash's loyal people. I just don't understand it. Another person I would also like to point out in that server is Jade. Jade, I have had little experience with the dude, but basically based on what I had with Zim server, he's no different. Another asshole who thinks it's alright just to like actively harass people. Well, I shouldn't say harass, but just be utterly dickish just because you can. That's not how this works. It doesn't matter if it's the internet. That doesn't give you the right to be a dick. People who unironically use the argument, if you can't handle the internet, get off. No, that's not a valid argument. That's like saying if you can't handle life, kill yourself. That's not how shit works. And that's not a valid argument. Like, for one thing, if you're on the internet, and I shouldn't even have to be saying this because, like I said, most people are old enough to know what a behavior is and what morality is. I don't have to educate you guys. But what people don't understand is like you do realize that just because it's the internet, that doesn't give you the right to act like an apeshit and create a whole front or persona and shit. Like, what these people don't understand is like, what they don't understand is just making you look worse in comparison. That's one of the reasons why when I'm on the internet and stuff, I try to be as nice as I can, and I don't like to start drama and shit. I just try to be a good person in general. I don't care whether people can see me as a good debater or not. At the end of the day, I'd rather be a good person over a good debater, which I am, but still. And like I said, that's one of the reasons why that's one of the reasons why I have, well, what little fan base I do have. People are actually nice to me. I mean, sure, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say I'm an angel, because I'm not. But at the end of the day, I still try to treat people with respect, and I don't humiliate them and like take away their dignity just because they either supposedly lesser than me or just a better debater. I still treat them as equals, and that's one thing a lot of debaters are lacking: humbleness. Like, if you're not humble, then you honestly are just like, you shouldn't be a debater, because the one thing you have to understand is you have to have good sportsmanship. Nowadays, these fucking backpack debaters, nowadays, they think it's alright to be an asshole, and that their asshole personality makes them look good, which it really doesn't. It just makes you look like an idiot. And not only an idiot, but a bad person. And on that same note, talking about Splash's server, I might as well get on to Devilman, who's probably one of the worst in the whole server, which is saying a lot. This dude just actively goes out of his way just to harass me. Even when I first encountered the dude and he entered my server, one of the first things that he did was just actively get on my nerves and try to harass me and shit. And then when I kicked him for, obviously breaking our rules and just being an utter dick that nobody wanted to deal with, he just nowadays he can't even get my name out of his fucking mouth. He has to keep my shit in his mouth just to stay relevant. And the funny thing about it is, at the end of the day, he just sounds like he's desperate, because nowadays all he do is just shit talks me and shit. And I don't even care. I'm not even mad. At this point, the only reason I'm even addressing it is because it's vital to my point on why debating is toxic, basically. But these people don't understand is that your image, your skills and your image are just as important. Whether you're a good debater is alright, but your image as a debater is what's also important. And if you're just blowing your image and basically making yourself look like an asshole, then you might as well just quit debating, because at the end of the day, nobody's gonna want to associate yourself with you. Or maybe they do, because these people do have large fan bases, but you want to know what they have in common? They're all the same type of personality, so only those type of people will want to hang around you. And when something happens, don't expect those same type of people to be around you. That's one of the reasons why I would rather have a good friend than just an asshole debater who happens to be good. And that's one of the reasons, and the funny thing about it is, what people don't understand is there are actually good debaters out there who have good personalities, and they also have some notability, although these debaters are a lot more underground, such as Nairobi. Nairobi is my dude. I like the dude. He not only is he a good debater, but he also has a good image, and he actively doesn't try to be an asshole. I appreciate Nairobi, and that's one of the reasons why I actively like this dude. He's a good, not only is he a good debater, but he also tries to make himself look good, as far as I'm aware. I'm not sure, I haven't seen anything, and I don't plan to look into him, because as far as I'm aware, he is a good person. Another perfect example of that as well, I'm trying to think, is Just a Robot. Just a Robot, say what you want about him again, at the end of the day, he still is at least a debater with good heart. Sure, he's done some stuff, but at least he has good heart and good intent. At the end of the day, he doesn't intend to be an asshole whenever he can be and stuff. That's one of the reasons why I don't watch his videos, daily at least, but I don't watch most of his videos, but at the end of the day, I still respect him as a person solely on the fact that his personality is likable. He isn't an asshole just for the sole sake of it, and that's what I appreciate about Just a Robot. Same thing for Koro. Koro technically isn't a debater, really, but he's starting to enter that scene. And before he even does, I must warn him that he's going to have to be dealing with these type of toxic-ass people. He's already dealt with them with Seth, who he actually bodied, by the way. Which is kind of actually a bad thing for Seth. But that's not the point. Basically, Kuro is another person who, at the end of the day, he has a passion. He actually has a genuine good personality and stuff. He isn't someone who's just utterly toxic and actively harass him. The funny thing is about that, I feel sorry for him because he has to deal with the constant wave of Seth niggas and also somewhat Splash niggas as well, which is sad because the dude is a genuinely good person. And he just wants to basically express his opinion about Ben 10 and stuff, which I commend him for, because it's like I said, as a person who literally can testify that debating, you don't even have that intent when you first get into it. I can commend the dude. I will give him that. But yeah, but like I said, And like I said, I can point out the many various people, specific people who are just ruining debating and basically, oh yeah. But like, let me just get to the elephant of the room. I might as well talk about Splash himself, who, like I said, I know he's probably going to hate me after this video, but honestly, I just genuinely don't care, because everything I'm saying, I'm just being real, and I'm just calling it how it is. If he doesn't like me anymore, I don't care. I'm just being quite frank. I don't give a shit. And after his current actions, I can especially don't care, because I don't want to associate myself with him anymore if he's actually watching this video, which I know someone will give it to him. Now, with that being said, Splash himself, he's just, oh boy. Well, actually, funny enough, he isn't he isn't as much of an asshole as Chuck, and he isn't as rude as Seth, but oh my god, is this dude arrogant and just thinks so highly of himself. Bro, this dude just thinks so fucking highly of himself, and it's sad too, because this is another thing that gets transmitted to his to a large mass of people. What people don't understand is that, what he doesn't understand at least, is that his arrogance and just utterly high and mighty personality, it gets translated to people, and people don't like that type of shit. Nobody wants to deal with someone who is constantly arrogant and thinks highly of themselves, whilst also talking down to people who he perceives as lower. Which, funny enough, prior to my encounter, when actually looking into it, yeah, that's kind of what he did prior. He viewed me as lowly, and talked down to me. Even when I was debating him, he still talked down to me and acted like I was basically retarded. Also, I should note the fact that Splash's server is also the same server that actively spammed the chat and made fun of me for saying a lot during Splash's server, not realizing the fact that that's something I can't control because I have Asperger's, aka a literal disability. So I'm gonna just let you keep that in mind, that Splash server does that type of shit, and hence one of the reasons why I myself don't want to associate myself with Splash as well. Well, I will commend Splash for not doing that. At the end of the day, that's his server. Regardless if he wants to come up to me and say that isn't his people, and which he has before, that's still your server. It's your server. It's your name, and I'm holding you accountable for it, because I have the right to. It's under your name. But with that being said, I could go on and on about Splash, or such as the fact that he actively got onto me for calling Kratos an idiot and a dumbass, which he actually is, because he's an asshole, and I've already explained that why. And not only has he done that, but I can testify a lot of other stuff. And while I will admit that I did almost beef with him because of something that I overthought, but nowadays I'm not tripping, because given his personality and stuff like that, yeah, I definitely don't want to associate myself with him. And also, I definitely know that he did have some ill feelings towards me. He can act nice towards me in the debate all he wants. He still talks lowly to people and is still arrogant. And also a bit of a douchebag. But I could also mention the fact that this dude's borderline shady, based on the fact that you have to pay $5 just to get back into a server. It's not even optional, it's a requirement to get back into a server, with rules where he basically can do anything he wants and ban you. Yeah, that's kind of not good. I'm not going to get into that unless people want to see that, which, given that YouTube is about drama nowadays, that's probably what people want. But yeah, basically, the thing is, what people don't understand is the reason why I put Splash, Chuck, and Seth in the servers, because those are the three biggest people I can name out of the people who represent this large section of debating nowadays and stuff. The reason why I put them on the thing is because they're just, like I said, they're the three biggest people who I can name right off the top of my head, and also the three that I have had the most experience with. Because like I said, I did mention more people like Jade, for example. Jade, Awesome Time, Kratos, all those people who have, I think, YouTube channels. I'm not sure whatsoever. But yeah. So overall, it's just there's so many flaws and stuff that debating has, but I'm not even done yet. There's some practices about debating that I just despise and I just hate. some practice that I hate is when people actively lie about the context and take stuff out of context just to make a feed look impressive. What people don't understand is like, of course people can't debunk that because they don't know the full context. And that's what I hate about it. It's a purely deceptive move that people like Splash, for example, do pull. Well, Splash and his server, and actually Seth's server while I'm at it too. Seth's people as well, they're like a prime example. Overall, actively like deceiving people and making the feat look more impressive than it is without the context, that's just not only shady, but that's just purely a dick move. Because like, not only is that like just actively lying, and also I think that's a fallacy, but I can't name it off the top of my head. Not only is that a dick move, but it's just actively deceptive. And the thing is, I think that both of them have been exposed on that type of stuff, and yet people still trust their word, which is dumb. And with that being said, there's a lot of other practices that I could mention as well that just perfectly fit this bill. Like I said, I could also mention the fact that like, I'm trying to think, cause like there's a lot of things about debating nowadays that are just making it toxic. But like those are like the individuals who I can name off the top of my head who are definitely ruining it. Because like even if those debaters I mentioned were underground, they still have a large presence on Discord, and they feel the need to like spread themselves across all servers related to debating, and to spread their cancer across Discord and ruin this debating, which is I don't agree with. Like that at first I thought Google Plus like itself was just a cancer stick, which it is still cancer, don't get me wrong, but its debaters are nowhere near as cancer as, like, for example, I don't know, Kratos or anything from Splash's server, Chuck's place, or whatever the place is be. It's just that, you really done messed up when a lot of people that I used to hate nowadays, like, for example, Fingerprint, I used to hate that dude, and to an extent, I kinda do, but at the end of the day, I can't even hate the dude anymore now. Not as much as I did anymore, anyways. Like, the dude, I just don't understand. How do you make a whole fan base just more despicable than almost any person that I used to hate on Google Plus? Which, by the way, for some reason, Splash's people, or basically all those people that I mentioned with the large fan bases, i.e., Splash, Chuck, and what else? Oh, Seth. Not only do they seem to have a huge gripe for Google Plus debating, but just text debating in general. And I'm like, what's wrong with like right now text? Like, yeah, sure, I get it that debating was vocal, but like, I don't understand their gripe with text debating. Like, I don't see it. I'm not sure whether there's just garbage at it. Which, giving my theory, there probably very are garbage on text debating, or whether the fact that it's just that like they think that debate should be vocal. I'm not sure about it, but regardless, that mentality is stupid, and here's why. You see, the thing is, debating shouldn't like change based on the medium. The thing is, if you're really a good debater, then whether it's on a text or on a VC, it shouldn't really change. If you're really like one of the best, then it shouldn't change at all. Your mindset should still translate to the text or or your voice. It should still be the same. So why people reject text debates and stuff and actively like harass people on the fact that they text debate is beyond me. Cause, like I said, some people just genuinely prefer that. Like, I'm one of those people who do prefer text debates over VC debates. And, like I said, I can VC debate, and I've won some VC debates. But I prefer to do text because this is what I'm used to, and I like it. And, on that same note, it's like, there's also a lot of things, but there's also a lot of things I hate as well that are purely toxic. Like, for example, the fact that people think it's obligation to debate them if you say something. And if you refuse, you get called a duck, or what nowadays is called ducking. Like, first and foremost, whoever thought it was a good idea to, like, it's a good idea to make people look lesser just because they reject the debate, whether it be for outside sources or just because you're not interested. People who do that, they are some of the worst people. And those three people I mentioned, Seth, Chuck, and Splash, are prime examples of this. like, you do realize that, like, everyone has a right to a debate and they have a right to reject it. Just because someone rejects the debate on the basis of something else, even if they did it just because they didn't want to and they had no other reason, that still doesn't give you the right to insult them and call them a duck or whatever. Like, everyone is not entitled to a debate. Everyone is entitled to a rejection. So, with that being said, no, just because someone refuses to debate doesn't mean they're scared to debate people. I've rejected debates from people who I know I could beat and have beaten before, yet I still get called a duck for it. And I can name other people who does that as well. Does that mean that they're genuinely scared? I don't know. But at the end of the day, that doesn't give them a right to insult them just because they refuse to debate. Like, that also points back to another thing I mentioned, basically the aggressiveness and just unnecessarily rudeness that debaters have nowadays. Which, it shouldn't be that way because debating was never meant that way. It was always meant to be something like a community-based thing. So, with that being... Actually, why I keep fucking saying that? But, yeah, just like... I really could keep going on with the flaws, because, like, this video is already, like, 35 minutes long as it is, but, like, the thing is, at the end of the day, there are blatant flaws with debating, and what I intend to do with this video is I intend to hope that people sees, like, these flaws, and actively realize that debating has went to shit, and stuff, like, really shit. So, with that being said, that's all, folks. Super Bear Neo, peace the fuck out, like, you know. Also, be sure to check out, Who Can Defeat Yoda Ball from Persona, as I will be making a video on him. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, Super Bear Neo, peace the fuck out. See you guys, love you, whatever. Yada yada, bye.